Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. I thought we could probably do a live show. We haven't done one in a while. Um, so why don't we do one? We'll see if anyone has any questions. Let me post this in a few different places and we will jump in. All right. So, we had tons of streaming. Can you guys hear me, by the way? I haven't done a live stream in this new place. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Um, I'll assume the audio is good. Someone says they miss these. Yeah, we used to have these. We used to have the live streams all the time. We were house builders. We were building houses, carpenters. Um, yeah. So I'm actually upgrading my internet in about a week. So I'm getting Google Fiber like in a few days. So hopefully my internet will be even better once I upgrade to that. But for now, one of the things we talked about, there's several different things we talked about. Expect the summer lull, right? Expect the lull in the market in the summer. At the very least, expect a 3 to 6 month period where the prices are generally bearish. We're sort of seeing these things play out. But one of the interesting things that I was looking at earlier today was our upper logarithmic regression band for Bitcoin, right? Our upper logarithmic regression band. And the reason why it's interesting is because it's actually approaching 100K, okay? So do I think we're about to go to 100K this week? No, of course not, right? Of course not. But, I like to be conservative. I don't like to put out those lofty price predictions and say that, we're going to go to 300K by September or October or December, because frankly, what's more likely to happen is we're likely to be closer to 30K by September than we are to be close to 300K. So it's funny how Bitcoin has a way of making these crazy price predictions seem ridiculous, because people make them when things are bullish, and then they eat their words when things are bearish. But what I would say is, if you look at the peak regression band, it is now at a very modest $99,603. So within about a week or so, probably less than a week, the upper regression band for Bitcoin will be pushing $100,000. Now, what that means is I've often said that I think the cycle is going to be lengthened and we're going to have diminishing returns. And when you think about diminishing returns, I've often contended that that will ultimately go to $100,000 to $200,000 by 2023. Okay, 1 to 200K by 2023. If you pressed me on a more narrow range than just saying 1 to 200, because admittedly 1 to 200 is a pretty large range. You're talking about 100. That's a 2x, right? It's a 2x to go to $200,000. If you pressed me on trying to give a more specific number, again, it's nothing you can take to the bank. I know some of you guys want that. You can't take it to the bank. I would say maybe between 120 to 140 is sort of my best guess. But again, I would also contend that the probability that I'm wrong on that range is higher than the probability that I'm right. So it's more likely that it's not going to be in that range than it is going to be in that range. I'm just saying, if I had to guess a range, I would say, ultimately speaking, 120 to 140. But, right, and this is often the where things get misconstrued. A lot of people think that has to happen in 2021. If you follow this channel long enough, you'll know that's very likely not the case. Doesn't mean it can't do it. I'll remain flexible. But I also think that there's a high probability that range does not come in 2021. but that it could come later on. And I don't really see that as a bad thing. I think that it gives people time to accumulate. You know, we've talked a long time about fundamental reasons as well. Again, with the institutions wanting to come in, it's not like they can just say, oh, hey, hey, Bob, go buy Bitcoin, and they just have it on their books the next week. It takes months. It takes months of preparation and discussions, and then you actually have to think about doing it. You have to talk about doing it. Once you talk about doing it, you have to convince everyone that you are going to do it. And then once you are going to do it, then you have to figure out how to do it. And then once you figure out how to do it, then you actually have to go buy it. So there's a lot of steps involved. And I think from a data science perspective, right, from a data science perspective, and from a fundamental perspective, hey, I think we're on track. I think we're essentially right where we really need to be. Now, another thing I think that's worth looking at, and I know you guys have seen this before, but I just want to briefly do an update on our cycle ROI, just measuring it off of TradingView. I'm not including this wick here because it went all the way to like 0, and I don't think you can really trust that. I wasn't trading Bitcoin over here, so I don't know. But if we just take it from this point here, again, that's cycle 1. You could say that this is cycle 2. And that one was like a double peak cycle. And then we'll go ahead and color code that one. And then we'll go with cycle 3 over here. And we will color code that one as well. Okay, so with that in mind, let me line these up as best as I can. So we're gonna line it up right there. Okay, so where are we in the grand scheme of the cycle? Well, one of the things we speculated fairly frequently is that we could be looking at some type of extended double peak cycle akin to 2013, but not identical to 2013. If anything, maybe it looks similar to 2013, but it's stretched out, right? It's completely stretched out. If you look at 2013, the first peak, if we were emulating the 2013 cycle identically, the first peak would have occurred back in May of 2020. And the second peak would have occurred in January of 2021. So if anything, if it does end up being some type of double peak cycle over the long haul, and we want to call this the first peak, I know some people that want to look at this range here and say, well, you know what? Okay, this is 6 months, right? This is 6 months before we were putting in new all-time highs or so. But remember, you can't take it like one-to-one correspondence, right? You got to look at the overarching trend, and the overarching trend so far is that this one has taken a lot longer. The other implication is maybe it's not a double peak cycle. I mean, maybe it's like a triple peak cycle. We don't really know what it's going to be. It's always possible that the cycle peak's already in. I doubt it. If you want to measure it by the cycle peak of 2021, if your argument is that the peak has to occur in 2021, then yeah, there's a good chance 64K is the top for 2021. But I don't think it's necessarily the top for 2022 or 2023. So I think we need to be a little bit open-minded because we're already trading at a $33,000 Bitcoin. We need to go up 3x to get to 100K. We need to go up, 6x to get to 200K. That's probably the upper bound that I could, remotely imagine happening for Bitcoin. This market cycle would be $200,000. If it goes beyond that, I'll probably be out of the market and, completely. I'll be rooting you guys on. Not to say that, just to say, hey, I make as much money as you want, but past that point, I'm sure I'll be, running for the hills for sure. But, we often said back over here that if anything, we were ahead of schedule. Okay, we said we were ahead of schedule, and that we needed to cool off. And it was also somewhat in line with the idea of a double peak cycle. I see someone saying V-shaped recovery is imminent. As I told you guys the other day, right? This does not look like a V, okay? I mean, this is down and sideways. Okay, I showed you guys. This looks like a V, right? I planned my hairline like this for the last 31 years so that you guys would know what a V looks like. You see, I display the V in every single video so that you guys are aware that, as we said a couple months ago, very unlikely to get a V-shaped recovery. And, just because we saw that last cycle at the same time is not a good reason to assume that we have to see that this time. There's a lot of people that will look at a prior cycle and say, well, it's going to follow this exact same path. I think what's more interesting is not to look at the exact path it takes, but to recognize the general trends. And that would be diminishing returns from one cycle to another, as well as lengthening cycles from one cycle to another. Some have said, some say things like, well, none of these theories have been proven. And that's to some degree true. But it's also a fact that so far the cycles have lengthened. I mean, it's a fact that they've gotten longer. The only thing that's not a fact is, will this one get longer? Okay, so we've speculated, and it's somewhat dubious, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to be extrapolating 3 data points to send a rocket into space. But if you want to talk about sending Bitcoin into space, maybe we can speculate off 3 data points. So we're just speculating off 3 data points, as dubious as they may be. We're saying, you know what? Prior cycles, we saw lengthening cycles, we saw diminishing returns. We said, you know what? We're ahead of schedule. We are ahead of schedule. We need to calm down for a while. And calming down for a while does not mean coming down and having a V-shaped recovery and going straight back up to 300K by September, as more optimistic models would have you believe. I think what's more likely, again, is our general summer lull, okay? And we're getting that. I mean, we said this back in April and May, and now we're looking at July. We're about 50% down from the prior all-time high, maybe not quite at this moment. We're just, we're going sideways right now. We're going sideways. We've been going sideways for the last 2 months, between 30 and 40K. Obviously, there's a lot of people up in arms over what's going on. It's funny when you sort of zoom out. It sort of reminds me of that picture that when they were on the moon and they took it of the Earth, and they're like, you see this little blip in space. And actually, no, it wasn't even from the moon. It was when Voyager, one of the Voyager spacecraft, I think maybe it was Voyager 1, it turned around and took a picture of sort of the Earth, and it was like a pixel on the screen. And it's like knowing that all of human history literally exists on that tiny little speck of hardly nothing that you can see on the picture. And it sort of reminds me of looking at Bitcoin. And you look at these charts and you overlay the market cycle ROI and all of the emotion that people have experienced over the last 2 months. It's that little thing right there. Okay, think about all the emotion of the last 2 months. Since we've been trading between 30 to 40K, we spent 90, maybe higher than 95% of our time between 30 and 40K over the last 2 months. Look at that. That is where all of the emotion from the last, the pale blue dot, right? That's where all the emotion has been the last 2 months, is so far range bound between oh my gosh, I can't deal with, sorry, I don't like hiding people from the channel. But if you're gonna tell me the moon landing never happened, we definitely I definitely believe in science, and I will say too that I posted this earlier. There's actually a lot of research that shows that people who are likely who let me phrase it in a more optimistic way. People that are more capable of analytical thinking are less likely to believe in those garbage conspiracy theories. Okay, so people who think analytically and strive to think a little bit more analytically are not the type of people that are going to fall for that mindless garbage you see. In terms of these ridiculous conspiracy theories I see touted everywhere. So again, this isn't a channel for that stuff, but at the same time, let's try to remain focused on what science has shown. It's funny because if you get a powerful enough telescope, you can look at the moon, right? You can look at it, and anyways, we won't go down that route. I sort of take offense to those statements. I actually worked at NASA a while back, so to see people say that type of stuff, it's just utterly ridiculous. But anyways, let's get back to Bitcoin. Right? Let's get back to Bitcoin. Um, all right, let me just. I don't even want to read the comments after that little tirade. But okay, so Bitcoin right now again is trading below the 20-week SMA. Right, we're below the 20-week SMA right now, and we are currently trading at around $33,000. The 21-week EMA is right around $40,000. The 20-week SMA is at 46.3K. So we're still well below both of the moving averages that historically would be our support in gearing up for another stretch in a bull market. Um, yeah, sorry. I mean, someone says he just buys Dogecoin. I would say, I mean, at this stage, it's probably not the best idea. If you did that last year, I guess I really can't fault you for the returns you would have seen. Um, all right. So we are still trading below the 20-week SMA. We're well below it, in fact. I think by about 30%, right? By about 30%. Yeah, about 30% or so. So nothing too crazy is happening right now. What might be worth watching is the 50-week. Okay, I think that might be a level to watch. If you look at the 50-week SMA, the only reason I mention it is because we have seen bounces off it in the past, right? Like if you go back, we had a pretty nice bounce off the 50-week here that ended up taking us, up to, maybe it actually took us like 75% or so. We had a bounce here that took us up 55%. So the only reason I say it is because not to say that I think we have to either hold it as support or go below it, but just know that the price does tend to interact somewhat with the 50-week SMA, which right now is approaching a very modest $32,000. So we had the regression bands. You can see where we are. We had several moves into our upper regression band, but we never actually had a weekly close in it. By the way, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. We have almost 2,700 viewers. We're putting in rookie numbers at 400 likes. Let's try to get to 1,000 likes. Definitely subscribe. Let's go for 500,000 subscribers. We were unable to put in any weekly closes in the upper regression band. If you look at the regression rainbow, it looks pretty nice so far. I mean, nothing's really changed. It seems like it makes a lot of sense. We speculated that we would not go to this regression band, which is what we would have had to have gone to by September to make it to that 300K prediction that we saw in other places in the cryptoverse. I don't think that's going to happen this year. It just doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense with regards to a lot of things that we look at. But anyways, if you look at our regression band here, we were mostly between this one and this one during our accumulation, which was very similar to the last cycle. Very similar to the last cycle. But as we said, this cycle has experienced a lot more intra-cycle volatility, right? Intra-cycle volatility. We came up to this line, and we also came down to this one, okay? And then we came up to this one, okay? We came up one more. So the volatility, the intra-cycle volatility so far has been a lot higher than the last cycle, okay? The returns from the last cycle at this point would be a lot higher, but so far the intracycle volatility has been more in terms of like moving to the upside and the downside. So we've actually come back down below this one. If we were to go back to say this one, it would correspond to going back to around approximately $25,000. Actually, there was something else I wanted to show for the more optimistic viewers who prefer the 300K by the end of the year prediction. And if you do end up being right, which again I sincerely doubt, but if you do, note that here's sort of a blueprint for how it could occur. We should be closer to 70 to 80K at this point in the cycle if we really had a great chance of going to 300K by the end of the year. So we should be at 70 to 80K, and we're not, okay? And by September, we should be trading at 100K. I'm going to speculate we will not be trading at 100K by September, okay? But in order for us to get to that $300,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, we would need to be looking at around $100,000 per Bitcoin by September to have essentially a snowball's chance to make it there. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Don't, let's stay realistic on the channel. Leave the crazy predictions for the other channels. I'll need someone to sell my Bitcoin to one day when the time comes. So that basically covers a lot of the Bitcoin stuff. We talked about our little corridor before, so if we want to look at our corridor, we have it here. I mean, so far it's done a fairly decent job. I'm somewhat skeptical that this indicator will stand the test of time. I am somewhat skeptical. If you just want to look to see what it looks like, this is what it looks like so far. And you can see that the lower bound here is now at 29.3. Okay, so now it's at 29.3 on our little corridor here. So, I don't know. I really don't know if it's gonna stand the test of time. I created it as sort of a joke, honestly, and it's sort of holding up well so far. So I'll continue to at least follow it. The upper bound is sort of coming down right now. It's come back down now to around 115,000, which is interesting because if you look at the regression bands, you could see something there. One thing I was looking at, I don't really think this is that interesting, but one thing is if you look at this, just buckle up, okay? If you're not sitting down, just sitting down, start sitting down. And if you want to take this to the bank, I would recommend not doing so, okay? It's interesting because if you sort of ignore the price and you just look at this very dubious indicator and you sort of draw a line, you draw a line from where it extended to. Where did it extend to in 2013, 2014? Well, it extended to here, $3,100. And then where was the bottom? $3,100. I don't know if it's relevant, probably not. And then if you look at this one, Here, it went up to $33,000. That's where we are. Is that important? Again, probably not, right? Probably not. This indicator was meant to be sort of a joke. It was not meant to be taken to the bank or anything. But I just thought that was interesting. I don't really know if we're going to hold at 33K or not. I mean, I would personally benefit if prices went down into the $20,000 range because I feel like the risk on buying Bitcoin would be a lot lower at that point, and it would be an easier buy. I mean, 30K, the 30 to 40K range, my guess within a few years will still seem like a fairly attractive range within a few years, like within a couple years maybe. And within the next 12 months, I don't know. I mean, within the next 12 months, I don't really know. I mean, so there's part of me that thinks there could be some type of, big sell-off event at some point, like we had in March of 2020, sort of like reset everything, then we start going up. And I was just thinking about that, are we going to get that type of a washout? Kind of like this one, right? I mean, it was sort of like we wanted to go up over here, but we ended up going down before then going up shortly thereafter. And then over here, it's like we wanted to go up, but then we ended up going down before we went up shortly thereafter. So it's like, it's like we want to go up, we want to go up. I just wonder if we're going to have some type of sell-off event that really just, demolishes and wrecks people that bought at the top, and cleanses the market, and we start afresh again. And I don't know. I mean, there's been times in history where we don't do that, certainly. And there's been plenty of times where, a 55% drop was good enough before another trend up. But at the same time, I mean, it's not like if everyone likes to compare it to 2013. If you actually compare it directly to 2013, remember 2013 had an 81% drop. And then it just continued up later on in the year. Okay, it had like an 81% drop. I mean, I don't think Bitcoin's going to have an 81% drop before putting in a new all-time high, but if it did, an 81% drop would take you back down to $12,000. I don't think Bitcoin will ever trade for $12,000 again. I don't. But you know, there's certainly not a small. I mean, we've already been below 30K, right? So I mean, what I'm not really taking a huge risk by saying we could go below 30K because we've already been below 30K a number of times over the last few months. So obviously going below 30K is obviously in the cards, as it's already happened several times in the last few months. Something else I wanted to talk about was, you know, where we currently are. And I told you guys 2 months ago that we were entering into what I considered to be a brief bear market within the market cycle. Similar to 2019, okay? Similar to 2019, where, you know, if you just ignored Bitcoin's history and just pretended like you didn't know what existed before 2019, and this is all you saw, like, you know, you could see sort of a move. So we went up, and then we had a brief bear market for a while, right? And then we came up, and then I speculated a couple months ago, I think we're going to have a brief bear market for a while, and we're going to have some, you know, it's going to be a while of consolidation. We're not going to be going to insane price valuations by the end of the year, but we need to regroup, we need to consolidate, and then we can gear up for the next move. That's sort of where I see us right now. I don't see any immediate new all-time highs. But I also don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I think, oh, there's a deer in my backyard. I think that some people look at it and say, well, if it's not going up like next month, then this sucks, right? This is awful. Like, I need it to go up next month. You could also look at it like a lot of people came in and bought Bitcoin up here and looked at the people that bought over here and said, oh, you were so lucky. Well, in the future, there's going to be people that buy, you know, again, I'm not saying that this is the bottom, because there's definitely a good chance that it's not. But even if we do come down, right, even if we do come down before we go back up, you could still look at this entire range, and they're gonna, you know, the people who might be buying it somewhere over here are gonna look back and say, okay, well, these guys were lucky. Maybe these guys were lucky. Again, it's easy to look back. It's easy to look back in a bull market. It's easy to stand over here and say, you know, oh, like, you know, the person who bought over here was, why am I drawing an 8? The person who bought over here was super lucky. In actuality, the person who bought over here was basically, more than likely, they were just mindlessly DCAing and maybe even expecting the price to come back down. And then even if it did, they didn't care. That was how they were successful, because even, you know, they buy it in a way that they don't really care if it comes back down. If it does, they just keep buying. And so that's sort of what happened. And then at some point, you just sort of finally, you end this accumulation range, and then you shoot up. And so the same thing could be applied, you know, in today's market, right? The same thing could be applied to today's market. I think the main question is Bitcoin going to get another major shakeout? And I think there's certainly a decent probability that we get another shakeout before we can really make new all-time highs. And again, I also said to expect 2021. My plan, again, as I said about a week ago, for 2021 is to generally treat it like an accumulation time frame. And to be pleasantly surprised if I'm proven wrong. Like, if I'm proven wrong and it does go back up to, like, you know, if it goes up to like 100K or 200K this year, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I'm sort of not planning for that. I generally like to be more conservative, so I wouldn't plan for that. Hopefully that makes sense. So now everyone's talking about a deer market because I saw a deer in the backyard. Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of deer out here. There's also a frog that sits on the window a lot of times. The deer showed up and now we're below 33K. I guess it's a deer market. Why do I have so many doors? Have you guys know that math problem? I'm curious how many of you guys know the answer to this problem. Actually, if you've seen the movie, what is it, 21, you would know. There's a let's suppose there's a car behind one of the doors and a goat behind the other two. And you have the option to pick a door. And you pick a door. And after you pick the door, I show you what's behind. I show you a goat behind one of the doors that you didn't pick. Okay, I show you a goat behind one of the doors you didn't pick. So now there's only two doors that are closed, the one you picked and then the other one that you didn't pick. Remembering that I already showed you one door. I opened one door and showed you a goat. And I give you the option, right? I say, hey, do you want to switch? Do you want to switch to the other door, or do you want to stay at the door you initially picked? Is it in your best interest to switch doors? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? I'm very pleasantly, I'm so pleased with the audience because it seems like most people know. Um, so what happens is most people think that it's some, like, oh, they're gonna get you if you switch. But mathematically, and this has been proven many, many times, mathematically, it is in your best interest to switch due to variable change. And the reason is because the host of the show always will open a door that has a goat in it. Always. They'll always open a door that has a goat in it to show you that one. If they didn't do that, then it would change. But because they do that, then it is in your best interest to change. And to just give you an idea, let's I don't know why we're talking about this, right? What else are we going to talk about, right? It's sort of a bear market right now, right? So if you have door 1 and you have door 2 and you have door 3 and you have, a car in door 1, gosh, I can't really draw. I'm using like a little mouse here. Yeah, this is a pretty cool looking car. You have a car in door 1 and then you have a goat. Gosh, I feel like they're going to look the exact same. That's a goat, and then we're going to draw another goat. Okay, that's another goat. So, let's go through the 3 different scenarios. So, let's suppose that you pick door number 1. And then I tell you, hey, there's a goat behind door number 2. Do you want to change? And you say yes. Then you are changing to the goat, and you would have been wrong. So in that case, you would not want to switch, okay? Because you switch it to 3 and you're wrong. The other 2 times, if you pick door 2, I automatically have to rule out door number 3, and then it's in your best interest to switch, then you switch to door number 1 and it's right. Or if you pick 3, then I rule out 2, and then is it in your best interest to switch and you go to 1. So basically what happens is, when you first start, you only have a 33% chance, a 33.3% chance, 1/3 chance of actually getting it, getting the car. But by switching after the host reveals the goat, you actually improve your odds to 66.6%. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, know that math would support the idea that you should switch. There's actually a proof to go along with this, but we're not going to bore you with that. What if it's a deer instead of a goat? What if I want the goat? Well, if you want the goat, maybe you shouldn't switch. All right, well, we're back above 33K. We'll see what happens here with Bitcoin. What else do you guys want to talk about? Ethereum. We actually put out a video on Ethereum earlier today. So if you want to talk about Ethereum, and we did put out a video on the market cycle ROI on Ethereum like 2 hours ago. I don't even know if I'm still live. It says no data on my end. Maybe it's back. Yeah, I'll try to get out a link video soon. Yeah, I mean for Ethereum, I mean, guys, when Bitcoin's below the 20-week, what do you expect, right? Well, I said a few weeks ago that Ethereum's probably or a few months ago that Ethereum's going to be entering a summer lull. I wouldn't expect anything crazy. Worst time to buy Ethereum historically is in the summer. I think it's playing out, as we said. Well, I should say as the data said, and yeah, we're now below the 20-week. The 20-week on Ethereum is now at 23.37. The 21-week EMA is at 21.64. So again, we're below both of them. So I mean, right now, I don't really see any major turning. I don't see it turning around immediately. Okay, let's put it like that. What do I think about silver? I think silver is probably going to outperform gold over the next several years, is my guess. What time is it where I am? I'm on the East Coast of the United States. Talk about the dollar. Yeah, we can talk about the dollar. The dollar is continuing to fight. Okay, and this is what anyone who's super interested in Bitcoin should be looking at, because if the dollar starts going up and starts doing something like this, then that's not generally good for Bitcoin, right? I mean, look at what is this? I'm not really sure. Okay. I think my computer, let me go over here. So remember, the dollar, when it goes up, like this is going up in 2018, Bitcoin was not doing so well in 2018. It was going up in 2014. Bitcoin was not doing so well in 2014. So keep an eye on the dollar, because if it does start going up and sustains it, then it might not be good for Bitcoin. If it just stays range bound here, then you're probably just going to see Bitcoin continue to fight, right? And that's what Bitcoin's been doing for the last 2 months, right? It's just been fighting to stay, to keep its head above water, essentially. The other interesting thing is if you take the, we talked about this the other day. If you look at the money supply, and you account for that in the price of Bitcoin, you could argue that we already tested the prior all-time high. I put out a video on that the other day. So again, if you account for the money supply, the increase in the money supply, you could say that we've already tested the 2017 all-time high. And it's just that there's been a whole lot more money printed now. So that might be one thing to think about as well. Do I play video games? No. I play chess. That's about it. I don't. That's not really a video game. It's a board game. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. Give the video a thumbs up. Let's go for maybe 1,500 likes. Looks like Bitcoin's seeing a little bit of life. A little bit. We're back to 1/3 of $1,000, or $100,000, I should say. 1/3 of $100,000. We're at 33.3K. Yeah, I mean, it was a little unfortunate. We were not able to come back up to our trusty little level here by the weekly close, but it is what it is, right? We'll take what we get. We had a weekly close a little bit lower this time at 34,250, 251 if you went around, 34,251. Remember to check out the premium list as well, into the cryptoverse.com if you want to know how I'm navigating these markets. We actually just sent out the first Into the Cryptoverse NFT to people on the premium list. So obviously if you're joining now, it's too late for it. Maybe we'll have ones in the future. When am I scheduling my Forbes interview? Not anytime soon. I mean, what are we scheduling it for? Bitcoin's trading, almost 50% down from the all-time high. Has Bitcoin sustained 20K? Well, I've told you guys before, my definition of a sustainable 20K is to hold the 20-week as support above 20K, which we have not done yet, okay? So we haven't done that yet. We need to hold it as support above 20K. I haven't done that yet, okay? The last time we tested it was at 10K. We tried testing the bull market support band at like 48K. We failed to hold it. We're now at 33K. So no, I mean, I don't know that we can say for sure that it's sustainable until we're testing it as support, the 20-week and holding it. And if you do have some, if you want to earn interest on your crypto, remember you can do that at staking.intothecryptoverse.com. I'll put that in the chat as well. We also have nft.intothecryptoverse.com. We have all sorts of websites now. So if you want to go check out that one, you can as well. Another ADA video soon? Didn't we just do an ADA video? Like, I feel like I do like 1 or 2 a week. Do we have to test 20K before the next bull run? I don't think it's necessary that we do. Again, I think that there's a lot of people that will claim one way or another if we will definitively do it or not. I think there's a fairly high probability that we go below 30K again. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Max Kaiser's calling for 220K by the end of the year. He also said we'd hit a new all-time high by the time we had the Bitcoin Miami conference, and that didn't really pan out either. So yeah, I know the RSI on the daily doesn't look that. I mean, we're in a downtrend, right? I mean, if you look at the RSI on the daily, we've been in a downtrend for a while. Okay, we've been in a downtrend for a while now. So this is maybe somewhat important to watch, because every time we move up, everyone gets super excited. So far, we've been in a downtrend. So I would keep an eye on this. Again, it's not a perfect line. But just the general idea of, hey guys, like every single time we've had a move, we keep getting rejected by it. So at some point, maybe we'll break through it. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go put in new all-time highs, but maybe we just break the downtrend on the relative strength index. How long until the 20 weeks are over? What does that mean? What does that mean? What's my chess rating? Around 1700. Someone says he would have picked a goat before a car. Yeah, it's possible 28K is the low. 28K, actually, I think Bitcoin opened the year at like 29K. So, if you think about it like that, like if like Bitcoin is essentially not the price of Bitcoin. If you measure it year to date, is almost unchanged, right? It's almost unchanged because we're from where we started the year. Bitcoin's up around $4,000. So not a whole lot has changed. Like if you like saw the price of Bitcoin on January 1st, like I like to think there's someone out there that bought Bitcoin on January 1st at like $29,000. They haven't looked at the price of Bitcoin since. They log in today to see it at 33,000, and they think things are going okay. Yeah, so I mean, maybe we're coming up here to make it. Maybe this is a big test coming up. It'd be interesting if we got a bounce off the 50 week for sure. I mean, we have seen those bounces before. Looks like we're coming into some test maybe within the next week or so. We'll see what happens here. Also, yeah, I had that. Let me put that corridor up again. Um, Again, I think that with this indicator, we need to be very uh, pragmatic and know that it hasn't predicted. I mean, I only created it back in like April. Okay, so far it's showing a little bit of support, but I just thought it would be interesting. I just noticed that was sort of the bottom there, so it'd be interesting to see if this sort of works out. Sorry, not that one. See if it works out there as well. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with it. Time will tell how useful it is. If that one specifically is, if this sort of extension from the prior top. And it's also remarkable, in my opinion, that we are approaching the upper logarithmic regression band for Bitcoin will soon allow for $100,000, right? It's currently at $99,603. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. Yeah, yeah, we had the interview with Michael Saylor a few weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is I just need to work on my interview skills. So I think I'm gonna take the blame on it not going as smoothly as maybe I would have wanted it to. But I think that was not. I think that was my fault for basically not handling it, basically being one of my first, my first really major interview, and probably getting somewhat defensive on some things that I didn't need to. So hopefully the next time I can be better at that. So yeah, I don't think I think that was on me for probably not being better prepared or just having experience doing that type of stuff. How did the Sailor interview come about? Well, it came about because he posted something on Twitter, um, about, like taking out a loan or something to buy Bitcoin, and I suggested that the average retail investor, that's not always a good idea. And then we decided to just come on. I invited him on the show to discuss about things, and we did. What's my absolute max price within 2 months? Like, what's the maximum I could see Bitcoin being within 2 months? I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like if you get like a relief rally, it could go somewhat high. I don't think it would put in a new all time high. But I mean, if it bounced like 50% off, off the current levels, I mean, maybe it could go back to 50K. So I would probably say, like, if you ask me what my upper bound on the price of Bitcoin would be within 2 months, I would probably say 50K. If you ask me my lower bound, I'd probably say, like 18K. Okay, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, it's a pretty big range, and the only reason I say that it could bounce there. We've seen bounces off the 50-week again before that were about 50%. So that doesn't mean, that even if we do get that bounce, it doesn't mean we're going to be putting in new all-time highs. We just really haven't had a relief rally. Right? We haven't had a relief rally. Doesn't mean we're going to get one. We haven't had one. We are approaching the 50-week. We are only, the 50-week is at 31,901, and we have had wicks to it. So maybe we'll come down to that area somewhat soon. Again, my general thoughts on the market for the next several months are that we will not have any all-time highs for Bitcoin or for most of the rest of the market. These are my thoughts that I outlined to you guys, 2 months ago, that we need to have a lull in the market for a while. I stand by that. I think we're going to have, several more months of non-mania phases, of a non-manic phase. And even going to 50K, while it might seem somewhat manic, I don't know. I don't know that it's worth getting out of bed for a $50,000 Bitcoin when the all-time high now is almost 65K. Could it be worth getting out of bed for a $100,000 Bitcoin? We'll talk about it at the time, right? We'll see how quickly it comes. Sorry, we got some spammers. One reason I don't like live streams is because you get the spammers. Any chance we're entering a prolonged bear market, like 2 to 3 years? I don't think 2 to 3 years. I don't think so. I could see it taking longer than 6 months to put in a new all-time high. By the way, there's been some confusion. When I say 3 to 6 months, back in May, when I said a 3 to 6 month bearish phase, that doesn't mean we're going to be putting a new all-time high in 6 months. That just means that I'm hoping we somehow more confidently find whatever our bottom is within 6 months. Okay, that doesn't mean we're going to be putting a new all-time highs in 6 months. I just wanted to clarify that. Melvin says, I think you've explained the puzzle incorrectly. I've not explained it incorrectly. I've explained it exactly how it was meant to be explained. I think you're talking about the goats in the car. Can I talk about my portfolio outside of crypto? I've actually thought about expanding the channel to talk about other things like equities and other things. It's hard to do it because anytime I venture out, there's not as much interest. But I'm sure if I did it for a few weeks, there would be a little bit more interest in talking about things besides crypto. How can I say we've put in the bottom in 3 to 6 months? I didn't say that. I think that my general speculation back in May is that we're going to have a phase of 3 to 6 months. I said at least 3 to 6 months of you know of a brief bear market, right? I mean, we'll have to see where we are. I mean, we'll have to take it 1 month at a time. Like, I mean, if in October, if in November we're trading at like 30K still, and we haven't moved from the current prices, then there's still going to be a chance that we could go lower. If we get some type of major capitulation event, that could help provide some clarity. I mean, I think the longer we hold, probably the more optimistic we can become. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any certainties. I think everyone thinks that some people have certainties in trading and investing in crypto, but you know, even the people that appear very confident in their guesses have been wrong more times than they're right. So I wouldn't take any absolute predictions to the bank. Will ADA make a new all-time high after smart contracts, even if Bitcoin is bearish? I doubt it. I mean, if it does, I'll be so happy. I mean, I'll be really happy. I mean, you guys know I have the stake pools. If you want to earn interest on your ADA, go check out the ITC stake pools. I'll be happy if it does, but I wouldn't count on it. If Bitcoin's bearish, I would just expect the entire market to be bearish and be pleasantly surprised if you happen to hold an altcoin that's not. Like Link was a good example of a coin back in like during the last bear market that was actually doing really well despite Bitcoin being in a bear market. There's always a chance you pick the 1 or 2 coins that somehow do well even when Bitcoin's in a bear market. I hope it's ADA. I hope ADA is one of them, but I'm not gonna take that to the bank. What would I tell someone if they ask what strategy they should use to simply grow their money? I would tell them not to leverage trade. I would tell them not to watch all the conspiracy theory garbage you'll find in a lot of other channels. I would tell them not to believe everyone pumping, shilling them all the micro caps that they keep saying are going to go up 100 to 1,000x. Remember, a lot of those people that show you those altcoins were paid to show you those altcoins, and then they dump them on you the minute they show them, and they don't disclose that they were shilled. The reason I know this is because the same people that approach the other channels to shill the altcoins that I see them shill, they also approach me to shill them, and I just tell them to F off kindly. So just know that if you're drinking the Kool-Aid that they're selling you, just know that they in fact are taking your money to the bank. Because they're likely dumping on you what they are shilling to you. So don't do that. So things to avoid, right? Avoid the promises of 1,000x returns on microcaps. Avoid, leverage trading all of your money because someone promised you get crazy returns. Because the only reason they're doing it is because they earn a commission every time you trade. So it's in their best interest that you do leverage trade, but it's not in your best interest to do it unless you really know what you're doing. So I would say if you're new, don't leverage trade. If you're new, even if you're not new, you probably shouldn't leverage trade. So I would say don't leverage trade. Don't drink the Kool-Aid that the microcap pump groups, whatever. Just as they say, right? Don't stray. Just DCA. All right, what other questions? Did my family originate in Ireland? Actually, I think I do have some Irish in me. I'm pretty sure I do. My parents did not live in Ireland, but maybe before that. Someone says to look at the Bitcoin shorts. I'm actually interested. I haven't looked at them today. Are they doing anything interesting? Okay, they are moving up. All right, so as I've said before, whenever we see the shorts going up, Either people are very dubiously speculating or someone knows something we don't. So I don't know. I mean, the last time they did this, the last time they really started to move up was on June 25th. So let's go see what Bitcoin was doing on June 25th. Okay. Okay, so that day Bitcoin dropped a modest 9% or so. But still, I mean, nothing really changed. I mean, we still more or less just been trending sideways. So, yeah, I mean, the shorts are going up right now. Maybe a short squeeze. Maybe not. Yeah, I mean, one thing I think we should point out is make if you're just sitting on crypto, I do think earning interest on your crypto is a good idea. Again, I think you should come stake with ICC if it's ADA or Avalanche. But you know what? I mean, if you don't want to do that, just go stake with someone else, right? Just go earn interest. Um, Letting your crypto collect dust is probably not the best idea. I mean, if you don't want to take on the risk, there is some risk, then don't do it. But if you want to maybe take on the risk with a small amount, you could test it out, see how it goes. What advice would I give someone who bought the top and bought every dip all the way down? Well, I mean, depending on, like, I would probably just say to stick with it. I mean, that doesn't mean that you keep throwing your money at it necessarily, but likely in time, Bitcoin will bail you out, just like it bails out people for the last 10 years that bought at the top. I just wouldn't expect it to happen as early as some people would have you believe. So just keep that in mind. Any thoughts, insights on the minting process of my first NFT? No. I mean, uh, we minted 5,200 of them. They went to the premium subscribers. It's what's a few trillion among friends. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Sorry, it's what's a few NFTs among friends. Here it is. That's the first Into the Cryptoverse NFT. What's a few NFTs among friends? I did not sell these, I just gave them all away to people on the premium list. So hopefully, basically the idea was, hey, let's make it so that people can learn about NFTs without having to go buy one. That was the general idea. So I don't know what's going to happen to them now. They can do whatever they want to with them, but this was sent out over the weekend to the people on the premium list. Have I decided on a location for the Into the Cryptoverse conference? Not exactly. I mean, I feel like it's probably going to be Miami if I had to guess, just because it's a little bit more accessible for everyone. Like they have an international airport. It's not going to be like the hotels aren't going to be quite as expensive as going to like New York or something. So maybe Miami, but we're still exploring. We're still exploring the different options. Hey Ben, if you bought Bitcoin back in July 2020, doesn't that go against your theory that ROI is worse in the summer? I said the 90-day ROI of Ethereum is worse in the summer. I didn't say Bitcoin. It was the 90-day ROI of Ethereum is worse, historically speaking, buying it in the summer. What price am I exiting the market? It's not a price, it's a risk level. So, I mean, don't tell me the price, right? Tell me how we got to that price, right? Like, I mean, if the price of Bitcoin goes to like, 100K tomorrow, then I'm running for the hills. If it slowly, if it goes down to 20K and then slowly trends to 60K and then skyrockets to 150K, then I'm running for the hills. It depends on how we get there. How many days were in between the local top in 2013 and the one at the end? It was about 6 months or so, I think. Are my summers from June to August? My summers are from June 21st until September 21st, right? That's when summer is. That's when technically summer is, and being technically correct is the best way to be correct. So it's from June 21st through September 21st. Someone says, was the frog out of my window a bullfrog? Unfortunately, it was not a bullfrog, but at least it wasn't a bear frog either. Erica, glad you appreciate that we don't do any affiliate marketing, no paid promotions. We don't even have AdSense on the channel. I can't help it if YouTube occasionally shows you guys an ad, but we don't. I'm not running any ads on my channel, so hopefully you guys aren't having to watch them. The natural log of 1 is 0. That is right, Guy. How did I go from NASA to crypto? Well, NASA was, I worked there as an undergrad back in 2010. I was back at NASA Johnson Space Center. I programmed the lunar rover component of a distributed space simulation back then. So that was it was like 11 years ago. What language? C++. Someone says, hey, I guess you decided crypto has a better chance of taking you to the moon than NASA does. I guess you could say that. Do I do this full time? Yeah, I quit my job. I used to work as a staff scientist back up until January. I quit 6 months ago. Yeah, I know who Mark Rober is. He's got a YouTube channel with like 19 million subscribers, I think. Someone says they'd love to see me and BitBoy talk. Well, yeah, I actually went on his channel a couple times back in January and February, I think. Maybe March. Yeah, I went on that channel a couple times. You guys keep asking me when to schedule your Forbes interviews. I'll let you know. I just wouldn't schedule them just yet. And not now. Certainly not the time to schedule them. Yeah, I mean, I know people. I know people don't like the whole lengthening cycle theory and talk bad about it and whatnot. But I mean, as I said, if the same people are the ones that were touting 300K Bitcoin by September, and my guess is we're going to be closer to 30K than 300K by September. So I mean, the nice thing about all these predictions and people sort of trashing other models and whatnot just because they're not as optimistic as their own is that time will elucidate the truth soon enough. I mean, we're either going to be at 300K by September or we're not, and my guess is that we're not. So time will show who is time will elucidate the truth, right? It's funny that people don't like lengthening cycles. It's like it's funny because it would be in their best interest probably that Bitcoin does go up for the next couple of years off and on, right? Because if it does, then they can keep getting paid to show their micro caps and whatnot. My guess is that plenty of other people start adopting the lengthening cycle theory once especially if Bitcoin's not trading at 250K by December. My guess is a lot of people are going to start talking about it, and to try to remain optimistic as we go into 2022, because a lot of those theories suggest that 2022 should be a bearish year. I think that 2022, part of it could be bearish, but that doesn't mean the whole year is going to be bearish. Not exactly as I predicted, no. Exactly as the data predicted, right? It's the data. It's not me. I'm literally just over here dubiously extrapolating, and then other people make fun of it just because it doesn't align with what they think is going to happen. But again, I'm just dubiously extrapolating, and I'm going to continue to do that. I mean, you know what? Like, if I'm wrong, and we go to 300K by September, then like it's like okay, I was wrong, but I still had Bitcoin, and it still did a 10x within 2 months. So my guess is I'm right, but even if I'm wrong, I don't really care. What makes it dubious? Well, I mean, you're extrapolating from just a few data points, so that's what makes it dubious. It's like if we had 100 years of data, maybe you could better understand what the sort of bounds that Bitcoin could be operating within. But we only have a decade, so extrapolating from like a decade's worth of data is again somewhat dubious. When am I going to start drawing houses? Probably not for a little while. All right, well, let's see. What are we doing? Let's go to the 1 minute chart because I'm just looking up and I see we're at 32.8. Oh, maybe some cliff dwellers. $32.8K. How much longer am I going to be creating YouTube content? I mean, I don't plan on stopping right now, so, or anytime soon. $32,828. Monday, July 12th, we're trading at $32,841. Well, maybe, should we go ahead and wrap it up here? We've been going for over an hour. Maybe we'll stay on a little bit longer, but definitely make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, give the video a thumbs up. We also do have a Telegram channel. If you do join the Telegram channel, I would recommend, there's scams and whatnot. Remember, I will not message you first pretending to be, if someone messages you pretending to be me, just know that it's not me. So if you wanna join that Telegram group, you can do that. We also have a few other Telegram groups. We have Into the NFT Verse. I will post that one. If you guys are interested in NFTs, you can join that one. Yeah, I sort of want to get going because we've been going for like 80 minutes, but I'm like, all right, is Bitcoin about to, it's sort of going down right now. I'm just curious if this is going to keep going. $32,811. What else do I hold besides crypto? Stocks, real estate, a few other things. Guys, I told you guys a month ago I would not take that Wyckoff accumulation stuff to the bank, okay? I think that it just doesn't work like that. I don't think it's going to work like that. I'm happy if I'm wrong. But I feel like if it were Wyckoff accumulation on that chart that everyone kept posting on all my tweets, wasn't the time for that like a week ago? Like how long can it extend out before it's supposed to go back up? Goodbye, CL. More trolls in the chat. All right, 32,818. Yeah, they keep refitting it. That's what I thought with the whole Wyckoff accumulation. It just seemed like anytime the price did something, they would just refit it. I wouldn't assume that we are. I don't know. I already said what I wanted to say. Yeah, I don't even know where all the rumors started for Apple buying Bitcoin. Like everyone kept saying, Apple's going to buy Bitcoin. It's sort of like when they were saying Facebook's buying Bitcoin and they weren't. It's funny that one person can say something and then it, like, before the end of the day, like all of the cryptoverse is saying, "Oh, is this going to happen?" I would ignore that type of speculation because a lot of times it's just a made up rumor. If Apple does start buying Bitcoin, which, I mean, I feel like there's a decent probability that they start buying it at some point this cycle, then that'll be great. But I mean, they don't necessarily have to announce it today. All right, guys. Shall we wrap it up? I'm just sort of seeing if we hold here or if we are about to uh, pull the rug out, so to speak. Ethereum's flirting with that $2,000 mark. Someone says I have almost 3,000 viewers, I should stay. Yeah, I mean, we've been going for an hour and a half almost. Actually, I think the next t-shirt we're going to have is going to be one that says, well, I'll just wait. I like these ones. These say, like, what's a few trillion among friends? You guys can get them. They're in the store. If you guys want, store.intothecryptoverse.com. All right, I think we'll wrap it up. I don't want to stay on any longer, but hopefully this was useful for you guys. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, click the bell icon to turn on notifications. Let's go for 500,000 subscribers, and we only have to get like another 20,000 subscribers or so to get there. But that'll wrap it up for the video.